For more than 1,000 years, one of the softest things in the world was guarded like a dangerous secret. It was not a sword. It was not gold. It was not a hidden army. It was a thread, a thin, shining thread from a small cocoon. And somehow that thread would become a symbol of royal power, a form of wealth, a secret protected by emperors, and the beginning of a road that connected East and West. Hello, my friend. Welcome back to English Mindwave today. Silk may look peaceful. It may appear as a scarf, a dress, a bedsheet, or a piece of luxury fabric in a quiet shop. It feels gentle against the skin. It seems elegant, harmless, almost silent. But the curious trade historian does not see silk as only cloth. To this historian, silk is evidence. Evidence that a tiny thing from nature can become an economic force. Evidence that beauty can turn into status. Evidence that knowledge, once controlled, can become power. The story begins in ancient China around 2696 BC with a legend about Leizu, the wife of the Yellow Emperor. She was said to be sitting in an imperial garden, drinking tea. Around her were trees, leaves, warm air, and the calm world of the royal court. Then a cocoon fell into her cup. It could have been ignored. It could have been brushed away as something small and ordinary. But in the hot tea, the cocoon began to loosen. A long thread appeared. Then more of it came out, smooth, soft, and surprisingly strong. Leizu noticed what others might not have seen, and history often changes because someone notices what everyone else overlooks. That small cocoon was not just an object from nature. It was a secret waiting to be understood. From that moment, according to the legend, silk began its journey from garden accident to imperial treasure. The question is no longer what silk is. The real question is this: how did one tiny cocoon become one of the most powerful secrets in world history? To understand why that tiny cocoon became so powerful, the curious trade historian follows the thread away from the garden and into the quiet world of labor. Silk did not become valuable only because it was beautiful. Beauty was only the surface. Underneath it was a process that required patience, timing, knowledge, and human hands trained to see value in something almost invisible. It began with the silkworm. A moth laid hundreds of eggs, sometimes around 500, and then its life ended. From those eggs came tiny worms, fragile at first, but full of future value. For about 1 month, they were fed mulberry leaves. The leaves mattered. Without them, there was no strong worm, no good cocoon, no fine thread, and no silk. Day after day, the worms ate and grew. Then, when the time came, they began to spin cocoons around themselves. To nature, the cocoon was protection. To ancient silk makers, it became a hidden treasure. Inside each cocoon was one long fiber, but the fiber had to be kept whole. If it broke too soon, its value was reduced. So the cocoons were steamed, then placed in hot water to loosen the threads. After that, women carefully unwound them. This is the part the curious historian cannot ignore. The story of silk is often told through emperors, trade routes, and luxury robes. But before any king touched silk, someone had to sit in a workshop and pull a thread so thin it could almost disappear between the fingers. One fiber alone was too delicate. Several fibers were joined together to make a stronger silk thread. Then the threads were woven into cloth. The cloth was pounded until it became softer, smoother, more beautiful. At the end, people saw silk, but behind that fabric were mulberry trees, worms, water, heat, tools, women, skill, and time. This is how nature became industry. Ancient China did not simply collect silk from the world. It learned how to produce it, repeat it, improve it, and protect it. The cocoon gave the first thread, but human knowledge turned that thread into wealth. And once human knowledge turned a thread into wealth, silk could no longer remain only a material. In ancient China, silk became a sign. It told people where someone stood in the world before that person even spoke. A robe could become a sentence. A sleeve could become a title. A piece of fabric could quietly announce rank, privilege, and distance. At first, only members of the royal family were allowed to wear silk. This made silk part of the language of the palace. It belonged to emperors, royal halls, ceremonies, and people close to the center of power. To wear silk was not simply to enjoy comfort. It was to carry authority on the body. Later, silk clothing was allowed for the noble class. But even then, it was not for everyone. For long periods, merchants and peasants were not allowed to wear it. That detail stays in the mind of the curious trade historian because it shows how a soft object can become a hard border between people. Silk touched the skin gently, but society used it to divide. A silk robe could say, "This person belongs above others." A plain garment could say, "This person must remain below." The difference was not only in the cloth. It was in what thought meant. This is why silk became political. When a society decides who may wear something and who may not, clothing becomes more than clothing. It becomes a public signal. It becomes a visible rule. It becomes a way for power to appear without raising a sword. Silk was also valuable enough to be used as money during some ancient Chinese dynasties. This changes the story again. Silk was not only beauty, it was stored value. It could be traded, gifted, collected, and used to show wealth. The curious historian sees something deeply human in this. People often think power is found only in armies, palaces, or laws. But sometimes power is woven into the things people touch every day. Silk was soft, but it carried status. It was beautiful, but it carried hierarchy. It was delicate, but it carried economic force. And as soon as foreign nobles and kings saw it, they wanted it too. Not only because it was smooth, not only because it was rare, but because silk carried the mystery of a distant civilization, and owning it meant touching a world beyond one's own. And when foreign rulers began to desire silk, the beauty of the fabric became inseparable from the danger of losing control over it. For ancient China, silk was not only something to sell, it was something to guard. The curious trade historian sees this clearly because every valuable product has two sides. One side is desire. The other side is fear. The more the outside world wanted silk, the more important the secret became. Foreign nobles and kings could buy silk. They could wear it in courts far away. They could feel its smoothness and admire its shine. But for a long time, they did not know how it was made. That mystery protected China's advantage. The emperors wanted the process to remain hidden. According to old accounts, anyone caught revealing the secret of silk production or trying to take silkworms out of China could face the most severe punishment. The curious historian does not hear this detail as simple drama. It reveals how seriously rulers understood the value of knowledge. A sword can protect a border, but knowledge can protect an economy. Silk was a soft fabric, but the method of making it was a guarded technology. It required the silkworms, the mulberry leaves, the timing, the steaming, the hot water, the unwinding, the weaving, and the hands that knew how to bring all of it together. If that knowledge left China, the fabric could be made somewhere else. And if silk could be made somewhere else, China's special control over it would weaken. For more than 1,000 years, that secret remained protected. This is what makes silk so fascinating. It was not hidden because it was ugly or dangerous. It was hidden because it was beautiful and profitable. It brought wealth. It carried status. It gave China something the rest of the world wanted, but could not easily reproduce. But history has a way of moving even the most protected things. In 550 AD, according to the story, 2 monks from the Byzantine Empire managed to carry silkworm eggs out of China. They hid the eggs inside bamboo walking sticks. It is a small image, almost quiet. No army marches through the gate. No palace falls. No emperor is defeated in battle. A few tiny eggs travel inside simple walking sticks. But inside those eggs was the future of silk beyond China. Once the eggs reached new lands, silk production could begin elsewhere. This did not erase China's importance. The story of silk still leads back to ancient China. But the secret had begun to travel, and with it, a piece of economic power began to move across the world. Once the secret began to move, silk was no longer only China's guarded treasure. It became a thread traveling through the wider world. The curious trade historian follows that thread beyond the workshop, beyond the palace, and beyond the borders of one civilization. Silk continued to be one of China's most prized exports. Foreign rulers, nobles, and wealthy families still desired it because it carried beauty, distance, and mystery. A piece of silk was not just something to wear. It was proof that the owner had touched a world far away. But silk also lived outside luxury. It could be used for paper. It could be made into fishing lines. It could become bowstrings. It could even become canvas for painting. That is why the historian sees silk as more than decoration. It moved between beauty and usefulness, between art and economy, between private comfort and public power. Silk clothing was often embroidered with flowers and birds. These designs turned the fabric into a surface of culture and identity. Later, around the 13th century, Italy became one of the major producers of silk, and even today fine silk still carries a connection to Italian fashion and luxury. Yet the deepest memory of silk still leads back to ancient China. Silk became so important that the great trade route between Europe and China became known as the Silk Road. That name alone tells the truth. A road remembered by history was named after a fabric, but the Silk Road was never only about silk. It carried goods, but it also carried ideas. It carried wealth, but it also carried stories. It connected markets, but it also connected cultures. And perhaps that is the most powerful part of this story. A cocoon became a thread became cloth, cloth became status, status became money, money became trade, and trade became a road between civilizations. Silk reminds the listener that history is not always carried by armies or kings. Sometimes it is carried by something small enough to rest in a cup of tea. Silk began as something almost invisible. a thin thread hidden inside a cocoon. But when human eyes noticed it, human hands shaped it, and human societies gave it meaning. That tiny thread became much more than fabric. It became wealth. It became status. It became a secret. It became a product desired by kings and nobles far beyond China. And finally, it became part of a road that connected civilizations. The story of silk reminds us that history is not always moved by the loudest things. Sometimes, the quietest discovery can travel the farthest. A small cocoon, a cup of tea, a careful hand, and a single thread helped shape trade, culture, and imagination across the world. The deeper lesson is this: never underestimate small beginnings. In life today, one small habit, one new skill, one careful observation, or one quiet effort may seem unimportant at first. But if it is repeated, protected, and developed with patience, it can become something powerful. Like silk, value often begins in silence before the world finally sees it. What small thing in your life do you think could become powerful over time? Please share your thoughts in the comments so everyone can learn from each other. And if this story helped you see the world differently, please subscribe to English Mindwave to support the channel and give us more motivation to create meaningful stories like this in the future.